What is up? The Sick Man, we're back. Week 18, middle of April. The sun is out, the sun is shining, and there is Super Leagues forming. Oh dear, oh dear. But before we get into that, let's call them out. Yeah, look at you hiding. It's not your fault, to be fair, man. I could give you stuff, but there's embarrassed fans, safe to say, embarrassed fans, and they should be. Um, so we've got the one and only Albanian analyst repping everything blue and teal, House Lasky. Got the owner of both super teams, a true trailblazer. We got House of O3. Andrew Wiggins and Lou Dort, the Dortcher Chambers number one fan, all aboard the Parantic Express.
You got to take Wiggins out of my house, man. Why?
I'll change it for next week. I'll change it for next week.
God damn it.
Keeping all doors closed since 97. A kiss from a rose, like Shilambir. And finally, seasoned with wild views, opinions, and odd rages, we've got Saltbray. That's rubbing off. Just before we get into this, guys, the Super League, obviously the news has happened. It's fresh in everyone's mind. I was just thinking about this. 6 teams, right, in the NBA. What would be an NBA Super League? I'm going to go the Lakers, the Celtics.
Knicks.
The Knicks, the Bulls.
Yes.
No. Bulls aren't a destination. Trust me. You go both LA teams, both New York
Chicago is a
teams.
big market, though.
It's not. No one goes to Chicago anymore.
Warriors and
Chicago's
Heat.
not a big market.
Warriors and Heat for the last 2.
Yeah. The Warriors and the Heat. I would say, yeah, the Celtics as well. They're the big ones.
Warriors.
The thing is that we need an undeserving spot though, like
Spurs
Spurs and Arsenal.
Spurs. That's New York. The Knicks are the Spurs.
Yeah. The Knicks shouldn't be in the Super League for sure. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, we decided that quicker than I thought. We are going to talk about 2 divisions. We're going to start in the Northwest. I've got options. I can pass it like Stockton. We're going to go to the Utah Jazz. 2-2 this week, 42-15 overall. A bit of a mismatch week for Utah. House Lasky, take it away.
So it's fitting that you go to the guy from Northwest London to start off with the Northwest, as you should. So Utah, last time we spoke, 34-11, now 42-15. So that's 8-4. So again, a positive record since we last spoke in the last 12 games. However, they've been 4-4 in their last 8. So a little bit of inconsistency there, and they were 2-2 this week. So I don't particularly want to talk about their wins too much because. Yeah, it's Utah. We know that they can win games. Their 2 biggest wins came against the Pacers and Portland in the last 12. However, I want to talk about the losses a little bit. So they lost to the Mavs by 8, to the Wizards by 4, and then they lost overtime games to the Suns and the Lakers. The Lakers game was a little bit less disappointing because Donovan Mitchell was out. He's injured now. He's probably going to miss a couple of weeks. But also they rested Connolly and Rudy Gobert. So it was 2 unfit teams in the West that would be like, man, yeah, oh shit.
Wait, we got to clear this up, right, man? Because Wildy says the exact same thing. I know Jordan just ducked out. It's not Connolly, it's Conley.
Yeah, Conley.
Thank you.
Yeah. What did I say Connolly?
Yeah.
Oh,
Billy Connolly, Mike Connolly's long lost brother.
He's doing his.
I'm just saying. If I'm having a chat with someone and you act like you don't know who I mean, you're the dickhead.
Thank you, Wildy. So, as I mentioned just now, Mitchell is out. He got an ankle sprain. I think it was a bit of a severe ankle sprain against Indiana. The positive thing is that Utah are 3-1 when Mitchell is out. So I guess that is a bit of a positive. Another positive has been that it allows Bogdanovic to get a bit more shots up. And he's the one player I've been the most disappointed in this year from a Utah perspective. I was really disappointed that he was injured when he did in the bubble because I thought he could have been an amazing piece for them in their playoff run. So hopefully now he gets a bit more confidence heading into the playoffs, which will be big for Utah. Last thing I'll say is I was looking at some plus minuses just for Utah in general. And Mike Conley has got the best plus minus in the league at 10.1. However, second, it's Rudy Gobert. He's at 9.8 for his plus minus, which is amazing considering you've got Joel Embiid and how important he is to the Sixers. He's only at 8.5. Kawhi's at 8.4, and then you go down to other centers where Jokic is at 5.9 for this year in terms of total plus minus. So that's just one thing I just want to point out how well Conley, see, now you got it in my head. Conley and Gobert, how important both of them are to Utah.
What was interesting when Mitchell went down is the Jazz were actually down at the half, and Mitchell goes down, and they actually end up turning around the game. Interesting point there. Another key news from the Jazz is that Dwayne Wade, 13-time All-Star, becomes the latest Hall of Fame level player to own a stake in the NBA team. So he's joined the Jazz ownership group. He was there, throwing the hands up at courtside. Real cool. He's a cool guy, man. Dwayne Wade is very cool. Like, I know people dog him because he's got the shirtless things, but I'm like, bro, you can get away with it.
Right, man.
Yeah.
Did you see him on I Am Athlete?
Yes.
It is
very interesting.
amazing.
That's a great podcast.
I Am Athlete is by far my favorite podcast, all sports related. So I Am Athlete, it's run by the main guy who does it. He's on First Take now with Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall. He is an NFL player,
wide receiver,
analyst. Right? Yeah, wide receiver. I think he's got the most yardage. He's got the most yards for a player to never play in the playoffs as a wide receiver. I think that he talks about that being his biggest regret to never play in the playoffs. But anyway, great analyst, really good player. He's also outspoken, very big in the mental health community as well. He always talks about how he had borderline personality disorder, had to go to an institution, and how it really helped him. And he's now all about sort of building a foundation and helping people. His brand is called House of Athlete. And he's basically saying that anyone can be an athlete, and the little tips that help them. So whether it's the mental aspect, the nutritional aspect, the health aspect, all these things, bringing it together. He's got a really amazing podcast, and Dwayne Wade was on it. And they spoke a lot about Dwayne Wade's game and all his business stuff as well, and also his personal stuff with his daughter, which was really an important thing, especially for the African-American community and for athletes as well, which is such a macho dominating thing, where there is also always a sense of homophobia. I mean, we know it in grassroots football. There's always a sense of homophobia and anti-LGBT. You see that everywhere. But it was a really amazing podcast that they had. But anyway, on the Dwayne Wade point, I love this for Utah just because Utah is probably, no shots fired, but Utah and OKC are probably some of the most undesired markets. Like, if a free agent is signing, they're not thinking, I want to live in Salt Lake City or Oklahoma City. And part of it is also, I guess, I don't know any OKC fans that's in the public. Neither, I don't know any Utah fans in the public. You always see Lakers fans, Miami fans, all these big market teams, and even the smaller market teams, they've got passionate fans. But the fact that Dwayne Wade is on board really boosts the reputation of Utah, and it's really important for them from a free agent perspective. They talk about there's only 3 ways to acquire a player: trade, free agent, and through the draft. This helps them massively in the free agent aspect and making a bit more of a desirable location. And it relates quite nicely to what was happening in the All-Star draft, where, we got all that Utah slander. And we know that Dwayne Wade's got a little bit of chip on his shoulder as well, that if LeBron were to say something again, something similar, slandering Utah, Dwayne Wade would be like, all right, listen, calm down. Like Utah ain't what they were. They fixed up. Like, Utah's going to be different now. Watch it. And I reckon that he's got that attitude that will really help Utah in the long term from that perspective, from a player's perspective. So yeah, I really like it from a Utah perspective, and really cool for Dwayne Wade as well.
Yeah. In the I Am Athlete podcast, they were also asking him about who Dwayne Wade's GOAT was. And he says it was always going to be Michael Jordan. And that was something where I was like, I really respect you for that, because that is not he hasn't taken the easy way out. He's like, I played with LeBron, really good move.
He's a Chicago boy. Yeah, he said
Yeah, he's from Chicago. I was just going to say,
Yeah, he can still, he still could have bailed it out. Do you guys know any other players who own stakes in team? Let's see how good your knowledge is.
Shaq with the Kings.
Yeah.
Correct. There's one. Yeah. Very good.
How many are there overall? 3.
Second one's very obvious.
Oh, Jordan with the Bobcats.
All right. And, I'll give you a little clue. The third one is on a team of somebody who's wearing a jersey right now.
Well, as in, it it was a
Oh.
former Hawks player, or they own a share in the
I don't
Hawks.
think they pay for the Hawks.
But
Owns
they
a
have a
share
share
of
of
the
the
Alright,
Hawks.
You won't
Yeah.
guess this.
Did Magic must have a share somewhere.
Well, from what I read, 3 Hall of Fame players was the thing. Do you want me to tell you, Pete, out of misery?
Yeah, go on.
Grant Hill owns a stake in the Hawks.
Really?
Yeah, that was what I was
Good for
reading
him.
that. Make sure
Oh.
you go check that up.
Do
Ed,
some reading about that.
before we close this out, you spoke about I Am Athlete, Fred Taylor, Jags legend.
My boy.
NFL draft is
Do you know I met?
on.
Oh yeah, we met him at
We met him.
Euro.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've got the hookup. Draft is on Thursday.
Next week.
Yep, one word. Who you picking? Number 1 pick.
It's got to be the boy Trevor Lawrence. T.
All
Lawrence.
right. Okay, we'll see what they do. All right, cool. Let's head to the Rocky Mountains with the man who's always keeping the door shut, and that is my man, Lancashire Lambeer. Look at him in solace, just a silent nod. 2-1 this week for Denver. They are 36-20 overall. I'm sure we're going to go into reasons, but it's a bit of a somber mood in Denver.
Yeah, we'll start with a positive though. So Denver, you did touch on the fact that they're 2-1 this week. However, the bigger picture is that they are 8-2 in their last 10. They did actually win 8 games on the bounce, in which they beat the Sixers, Clippers, and the Hawks in that run as well, before they lost 2 games. One against the Celtics, in which they just absolutely threw that away. They should have had that in the bag, and they were outscored 31-8 in the final quarter, eventually going down 105-87. So that was an extremely odd result, considering that they dominated most of the game. And then another defeat to the Warriors, but we'll take that in Lancashire Lambeer's house. And then they bounced back from those 2 defeats nicely in wins against the Heat and the Rockets this week. So they've had a really promising run of form, and they've really solidified 4th in the West now with that record.
Recurring theme. This is going to come up twice in this podcast, and I'm just going to mention it, how absolutely ridiculous this is. In the Warriors loss, Steph made more threes than the whole Nuggets team. Okay? That's ridiculous. That's going to come up again, guys. So just wait. You obviously beat the Heat and you beat the Rockets, but in the Warriors game, Jamal Murray tears his ACL with his left knee. You hate to see it. He's going to be out indefinitely. Prayers up for him. That's a massive loss. What does this mean for the Nuggets in the playoffs? And also, what does this mean for the 6-man draft, most importantly?
It's a massive loss for the Nuggets. I think you can only really look at Jamal Murray's performances in the playoffs last season to see how much he elevated his game. And then even the last 3 or 4 weeks post the All-Star break, he's really turned it on. In his last 10 games before he tore his ACL, his shooting percentages were much higher than they had been. He was at 50% from the field, 47% from 3. He'd really elevated his game of late, and he'd really started to hit some form just before the end of the season, just in time for the playoffs. So it's a massive shame for Jamal Murray, for the Denver Nuggets, and for the NBA as a whole, that he will be missing out of the playoffs, and the timing of the injury as well. It's likely that he'll miss the entirety of next season too. It's just such a shame, really, for Denver. Whether this season they'll recover and still challenge remains to be seen. They've actually missed Murray for quite a lot of the most recent games because he had an issue with his left knee, I believe, which probably people seem to think that may have impacted the injury to his right knee with tearing his ACL. And in those run of games where he was missing, they were grinding out those wins and they were winning comfortably. Granted, a lot of those wins were against lesser sides, and they won't be playing those sides in the playoffs. But yeah, it's a massive loss. That it's very difficult to replace a player who can score as many points as Jamal Murray can for the Nuggets and be as clutch for the Nuggets as Jamal Murray, because he had that clutch factor last season.
Who's replacing him in the starting lineup?
Yeah, Morris, Campazzo have both been like in and out at the moment, really.
Yeah, such a shame as well. And I don't want to bring it up, but that game where he got injured was in garbage time. Like they weren't going to win the game, and that makes it even worse because I know, like, fair play to him. He was trying to get his team to come back, you know, which is probably improbable, but yeah, it just hurts even more. And for me personally, the Nuggets were a really high seed of like somewhere in the sixth man draft. I think they've dropped down, and that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Oh well, but on the upside, Jay Ward, my MPJ. You know, you said that the man on the 25 under 25 list, you called him out. You said he shouldn't be high. Let me tell you something about MPJ. He's really turned it on recently. He's averaging 21 points per game and 8.5 rebounds after the All-Star break. He's 68% on corner threes, which is second best amongst all players. And he's 59% on catch and shoot threes, which is fourth best amongst all players. So, Wally, do you still think John Collins is better?
John's been out, man. And look, I think if you had John Collins playing alongside Joker, you know, that's a man who elevates everybody around him. I never said I don't believe he shouldn't be on that list. I said I thought he was too high.
Sounds like he's backtracking. Matt, any more? You want any rebuttal to the MPJ? I know he's playing really well, man. He is playing really well.
Yeah, I think Michael Porter Jr. has been playing well throughout the whole season, really. Definitely. And I think he's one of the players that the Nuggets can look towards to help elevate the performances now with Murray missing. And then look to Jokic as well. He's been leading the MVP race the whole season. Is this an opportunity for him? If he leads the Nuggets to, say, fourth in the Western Conference without Jamal Murray for these last few games, is this going to solidify his argument for MVP even more?
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Also, shout out to Breaker putting me onto that Brian Windhorst pod where they're shouting at each other about Jokic v MVP. Very interesting. Go check that out. Right. Let's head to the third team in this division, and that is our very own. Look at him. I can see he's getting ready. He's got the red. Rib City, baby. It's Trailblazers time. 1-2 this week. 32 and 24 overall. The Blazers haven't taken advantage of the Lakers slip-up, have they, George?
No, and especially not as much as I wanted them to. It has been a struggle and a rocky road. Lillard has gone down with injuries as well to his hamstring. 1-2 this week overall. Last 10, they've gone 4-6. So it's been major struggles. And as I mentioned in previous episodes, this is a key thing which I'm worried about with my Blazers team. Because when Lillard goes out or he's struggling, we kind of look around for like our supporting cast to like step it up and help it out a bit or carry that load, and it just seems like it's not there yet with our roster, which is tough to say and hard to say. Overall, so like they've had tough games. So they've had a game against San Antonio game. That was a close game. We did come out with a win with that. But when you look at these games, like it's the defense as well. And I think that's where, when we have Lillard, he kind of helps us overcome that. However, unlike the Nets, where they have like KD, James Harden and Kyrie, when they lose a player, it's not the end of the world because they still have those backup players where they can still cause those problems and issues. With this, we just don't have that in our roster at the moment, and it's truly showing. Like I mentioned in those games, you can see it in their defense. It seems like teams manage to spread our players out, or our players are way too back, right up against the bucket, and then when our player at the top of the three-point line gets beaten, their guards have an open shot from mid-range and easy, and they just knock it down. And we just don't have that help on defense, really. It's a really big struggle. And you could see that in the Charlotte game as well. They got 40 points in the first quarter, 44 points in the first quarter, with Charlotte at not a full strength as well, not full strength Charlotte, which is tough. That game ended 109 to 101. So again, tough to swallow. And you could see it on the defense. There was a point where Carmelo Anthony let Bridges have like a wide open dunk. They laid out the carpet for him, dusted it off, laid the table, and he just ran straight in and took advantage and went straight in. It's just, yeah, it's really tough to watch, especially after we spoke about the Bulls defense. I think, Bray, to make you feel better, maybe you should look at a couple of Blazers games lately. Yeah, you'll see.
I've never seen Happy Jordan sound this sad before. Like, you sound
sad,
so defeated.
It's hard to watch. Like, every time I feel like a Blazers fan, like I'm not alone when you say this. Soon as Lillard goes down with an injury or out, or he's not performing, like fear creeps in, and it's tough, man. It's tough. Struggles.
That Jordan still sounds happier than Happy Bray. but yeah, I'm with Ed, George. You're breaking my heart.
Yeah, well, one man that's breaking George's heart is Nurkic. He's been trash. So trash, George. Hasn't turned up at anything. I understand he's coming off an injury, but he's getting minuscule numbers. He didn't score over double digits until last game.
I know, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, it just feels like we don't have it. Soon as Lillard's out, like I mentioned before in previous examples, soon as that star player is out and down, it's like all the other supporting cast players needs to like go on a course and figure out how to play basketball again. Like, it's a struggle, man.
Alex, is there a specific
I know
reason?
I know it's coming. Yeah, there is a specific reason. Why do you think I know that? It's because I'm not making playoffs in fantasy. I'm not making the playoffs, you know. And also, you got to think about it, right? You know, can't not win the playoffs if you're not in it. You know, RS. So you're fine. Just, you know, fade for Cade. Fade for Cade. That's what I'm doing. Melo is scorching off the bench though, George. He scored 25 points in the Celtics game and 24 in the Hornets loss. So at least he's doing that. Let's go to the big news of this week. LaMarcus Aldridge announced his retirement earlier this week. Let's put respect on LaMarcus Aldridge's name, because in that Dame series, when they played the Rockets, Aldridge set the tone for that series. I think he dropped over 40 points in one of the earlier games. Dame has called for his number to be retired by the Blazers. George, do you agree?
Yeah, of course. I definitely agree. I think Aldridge has been a big part of the Blazers family, and all Blazers fans have so much love for Aldridge and what he's done for the team during his stint there. Especially like since he's been drafted. After then, we had like players like Greg Oden come in, and then it hasn't quite worked out. So to have him there kind of hold the team together. And then, of course, when Lillard comes in as well, and just to see what he managed to, how he managed to build us back up and be that guy for us. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with this. Unfortunately, like it's bittersweet seeing a player go out not completely by their choice, you know, due to like health issues instead. But yeah, more than happy to see him get his jersey retired as a Blazer. So
yes, indeed. And shout out to Chris Smoove, because I remember when I used to play with Aldridge on 2K, and he'd be like always hitting the midi, and he'd be like la, shout out la. I just loved it. So good. Okay, cool. Let's head to the most miserable man on this pod, and that is Mr. Bray. To Timberwolves, your favorite team to talk about. They're 1-3 this week. They're 15-43 overall. Bray, talk to me.
I mean, like, they're 3-7 their last 10. I keep looking at this team, just go 500 like once. Like go 500 in 10 games. Like don't let your record get progressively worse. It's getting worse. I say this every time we talk about them, every single time. They still have a worse record than the Rockets. How? How do they still have a worse record? It's horrible. And to add insult to injury, this team, which I really dislike a lot, beat both the Heat
Oh,
and
dude,
the balls recently.
No, that's inexcusable. Regardless of how much you bum lick the Heat, that's inexcusable.
It is.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
I will talk about how unhappy Jimmy Butler was later with that loss. But yeah, I mean, for the Timberwolves, like, you know, they were feeling themselves in that game. They got a lot of offensive rebounds and stuff. But in any case, it's on the court. It's still terrible. Somehow, since they changed their coach, their defense has got worse. They're now stone dead last in the NBA behind the terrible Kings. Like, I just don't even understand, like, what are they trying to do? I mean, I'll cut them a little bit of slack. Like, they are the youngest team in the league, average age of about 24, which is like, all right, you ain't got any vets to tell you how to do it. And then the two best players, D'Lo and Kat, haven't played together much at all. It's been like a total of like just over 100 minutes or something. It's really, they just haven't played. And, you know, hats off to Kat. He took a couple of games out this week after a year has passed since the tragic death of his mother to COVID. So he's obviously had a tough time. We'll cut some slack because that, I think, you know, we've talked about it all year. Roster composition has really been a problem for them. They haven't got a team that's built for the NBA. It's a team that's built for the G League.
I know exactly what they're doing, Bray. How do you feel about tanking?
Well, they need to. Again, they will lose their pick if it's top 3 protected. So they need to be really bad, and they are. But yeah,
well, at least they're sticking true to that. So the Wolves played 2 games this week without Towns. Last week, and they scored 93 points per 100 possessions. Against the Nets, who ranked 25th defensively, and the Bucks, who were without Giannis. So to put this in perspective, the Wolves have scored a respectable 113 points per 100 possessions with Towns and Edwards on the floor together, but only 101 per 100 when Edwards is on the floor without Towns. I'm just going to put it out there, guys. I mean, Ed and I have spoken about this before. Bray, do you rate Anthony Edwards?
Oh, I don't. He is a big stats, bad team guy. He doesn't contribute to winning. He's incredibly inefficient. They're just force feeding him the ball and giving him a lot of minutes. I think he has potential to be a good player. Like, you see, you know, Michael Carter-Williams had the kind of same treatment. He's a good NBA player. He's come on now. Like, I like Michael Carter-Williams. And equally, I think someone like Wiggins had their reputation early on in his career of being someone who wasn't very good and has come on. So I think there's definitely potential that he can be a good NBA player. He just isn't that now. And I don't think the team is helping him by letting him do this. I think they need to be stricter and say, look, you're taking terrible shots. You need to get more efficient. You need to play better defense. You need to do the other things and not take all these ridiculously inefficient shots.
You see it all the time, bro. You make a good point. It's about system and about fit. As much as I do dog on Anthony Edwards because I don't rate him at all, I think that he's in a bad system and he's in a culture which is, you know, destined to lose. The Timberwolves made the playoffs with Butler and they didn't make the playoffs before since it was KG. And right now, like you said, the lineup is so expendable. I mean, there's a bunch of nobodies on there. I get that they're rebuilding, but it's not setting the right tone. At least, like, we're going to move on to them. But the Thunder, at least they will be competitive with a potentially worse lineup. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And, you know, it's all down. It's all really downhill for them at the moment. Hopefully, with the announcement that A-Rod and Mark Law are set to buy the team. They're buying the team.
Give it to KG.
And
KG.
Yeah, exactly. But good news is so the good news is they're buying both the Lynx and the Timberwolves. So hopefully some of that Lynx winning record, some of those championships will rub off on the Timberwolves. And they can get things going, but they don't take ownership till 2023, so we might have some time to wait.
If I'm a Minnesota fan, I'm supporting the Lynx more than I'm supporting the Timberwolves. That franchise is way cooler, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
My second team, the tanking is on, Jay Wild. It is well and truly on. They have, the train is choo-chooing along, as well as the Paraantich Express. The OKC Thunder are 0-4 this week. I actually don't even remember a team that we've covered yet have gone winless. I think it's been a long time. So they're 0-4 this week, 20-37 overall. This might be a bit tough for you, but take it away.
Yeah, man. I mean, you set up perfect, dude. Tanking is definitely on. We are Dad's army. It just tanks constantly. It's it's tough, man. We're running 14 guys deep, like every game. Like there might be a little bit of deviance in the minutes of all the guys, but when you're running that many guys on the court, none of them are going to really be establishing a great deal of chemistry in the last 15 games. They are dead last in assists, and they are 9th worst in potential assists, which I think is important because when you have a bunch of young guys, you have to look at the potential assists because they might be making the passes, but if they just have bad players, they're not necessarily going to be making the same shots other teams are. So you have to factor that in, which is why 9th worst is probably a little bit more accurate than the dead last in the last 15 games. They've also, they've got a bunch of guys out, and they are not shy about keeping guys out. Lou Dort has had an amazing week. Fine, they haven't been winning, as you said, 0-4, but he's been doing some high scores. I know we're going to cover that in a second. So, but the point is, he's now out with a hip. He's not playing Monday. Isaiah Roby, he's not playing Monday. They just, management and front office are going to be doing everything they can to not stop the team from progressing, but it's not in their interest to be winning because they hit their over way sooner than anybody ever expected them to. So now it's, they can still be where they are. They don't need to go lower than the Timberwolves or the Rockets because of the way they've changed the lottery. They will have an equal amount of chance to get a high pick, which is awesome. The key thing for me though is, we kind of touched on this with the Timberwolves in terms of a culture. While you've got all these guys here and they're going to be bringing loads of new guys in with the picks they've acquired through certain trades, you're really going to start to try and determine with advanced stats, because whilst they're losing, you want to see each individual player and with advanced stats who's going to help them win in the long term and who they're going to start picking to move forward with. You won't want them to lose a winning culture. So you kind of want to keep the message strong. You've seen they can do it. So you could argue they're going to be fine, but at the same time, you don't want to create bad habits for too long. So that would kind of be my take from that point of view.
It's happened again, hasn't it, guys? Warriors game. Steph makes more threes than the whole Thunder team. It's an absolute joke.
Yeah.
Steph Curry, you are the greatest shooter of all time, my man. I know we're talking.
Now tied Bill for he's now tying Bill as top scorer in the league, and he probably get the scoring title.
It's an absolute joke. Video game. It's changed the game. Put some respect on this man's name when all is said and done. We are talking about the Thunder though, and just a weird stat line that in the Raptors game, Poku, he had 8, 7, and 5, and he had 6 blocks. That's not my stat line of the week, but I thought, damn, okay,
Yeah, very funny. He's not the most physical.
No, he's not.
So seeing him get 7 blocks is it's a funny one. That's the funniest part. That's that line for sure.
But let's talk about your man, the man of the hour, the torture chamber, Lou Dort. He dropped 42 this week against the Jazz.
Yeah,
and he had 4 steals as well. 7 of 11 from 3. Waldy, can you name the 5 other OKC players who have dropped 40 points for this franchise?
Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, Perkins, joking.
4 points, 2 rebounds. I'm going mid. I'm going mid.
That's a really good question, man. I got to go Ray Allen when it was Sonics?
No, it's Thunder.
Oh, only Thunder, because they carry that over. All right, but it's not Ray. It's not Ray. Oh man. Oh, SGA must have done it.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's one more you said.
So you've got, read them out again. So you've got
Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, SGA, Lou Dort's now done it. You said there was 4 others.
There's 2 more. 2 more.
Oh, 2 more.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah, there's 2 more. Oh, is there 2 more?
No, because you said there was 4 others.
There's one more. There's one more. There's one
so
more.
There's one more. And it was when they were OKC.
If you can pass it on one if you don't. It's pretty easy.
Let's not.
He came second. I think it's the guy who came second in MVP rate. He came second in the MVP votes one year.
Correct. I think he might have been third. He was definitely top 3.
I was shocked.
Chris
when
Paul.
he was... No.
Oh.
He was only there for a year.
It's outrageous to think CP might have had a 40-point game when he's only
CP be close to 40 assists for sure. You got it?
No, man. I don't know why. I'm drawing an absolute
George.
blank.
Pandemic P.
Oh.
Pandemic P. He had 47 in a comeback win.
Should have got that.
That's fine.
But
that's bad.
Roll my man, CP.
That's all right, babe. You missed one. You go and get the next one. Anything else on OKC you got?
Yeah, man. Just it wasn't just the Jazz game where Dort was doing bits. Detroit 26 points, Raptors 29. Yeah, he's just holding it down. The other funny thing is about that Jazz game is Lou Dort led the OKC in assists with 3. So that sort of also lends into that whole assists thing I was talking about. I hope they don't make too many bad habits. But like, if as a team that is rebuilding, if I was a fan of a team that was rebuilding, which I have been before, of course, I'd be very happy to be an OKC fan where they're at.
POP, holding it down.
Hold it down.
So that wraps up.
Sorry.
So that wraps up Northwest. We're going to take a short break and hit up Southeast.